Hi, I'd like to introduce you to the 7 rules of self-confidence. If you don't feel that you're confident enough in work or in life or in relationships, in anything really, then these rules are going to be useful to you, because when you become aware of them, you can then retrain your brain so that the rules work in your favor rather than against you. So the first rule is that self-confidence is mostly about perception. It's about your perception of how you come across in life. Now, there are 2 realities that I like to talk about. The first one is internal reality, and the second one is external reality. And we normally make the mistake of confusing these 2. Your perception of your self-confidence is an internal reality process. But we often make the mistake of thinking that we feel non-confident because of external things. I don't know enough. I'm not experienced enough. Other people are better than me. Other people are taller than me. Other people are shorter than me. Some factors in the external world are making me not confident. And that's not at all the case. If you don't feel confident in yourself, it's because your internal reality is basically telling you that you're not confident and you're believing it. The second rule is that your emotional brain catastrophizes. Now, your emotional brain is really concerned with basic drives like survival, reproduction, and the drive for esteem and value and even power. And so if you're embarking upon something that's important to you and it's something that you'd like to get, you do a good job at, your emotional brain is going to catastrophize what terrible things might go wrong. Somehow in the kind of mistaken belief that if we figure out what's going to go wrong, we can fix it, all the rest of it. But all that happens is actually it just imagines a terrible catastrophe. You bring that feeling back to the present moment and you feel disempowered and frightened that might happen. But actually, it just tends not to happen. It just doesn't happen. Catastrophes are really relatively rare in the human experience. But even if something does go wrong, we deal with it because we are able to manage experiences. When you catastrophize, you've got no knowledge and skills. It's like you're naked, alone and afraid, and the worst thing that could possibly happen is happening, and you've got nothing that you can do about it. But that's actually not how life is. You have lots of skills and resources you can always bring to bear on things that go a little bit wrong. Rule 3 is that you're more competent and capable than you feel. Now, if you feel a bit of an imposter or a bit of a fraud, and if you feel not very confident about yourself, you're massively underestimating your competence, your skills, and your ability. And so the practice of catastrophizing makes it feel much more likely that terrible things will go wrong. And this, because it's an emotional experience, tends to override and capture your attention. And it's easy to forget that you're competent and capable. You're much more competent and capable than your feelings sort of suggest. And so what we have to do is we have to retrain your brain to recognize that you know what you're talking about. You're able to do the things that you need to do. Now, you might not do them perfectly. You might not know everything about everything. But as a general principle, you know enough to be able to do what you need to do. And therefore, you are more competent and capable as a general principle than you feel. Rule 4 is don't aim for perfection, because perfection doesn't exist. But it makes sense to a lot of people to have very high standards and to try to do things perfectly, because we get captured by the emotional brain's catastrophe. How might we stop that from happening? Well, we try to do things perfectly and have high standards. But perfection doesn't exist. So all that happens is that we try very, very hard to achieve something that's unachievable. Now you can see that when I put it in those words, it becomes something which just drives you towards burnout, stress, anxiety, etc., etc. And actually, it doesn't increase your self-confidence. It actually makes you a hostage to your work ethic, which is not a good thing at all. Rule 5 is that we have to change the rules of the inner game. Because your emotional brain catastrophizes, causing us to feel vulnerable, and because an obvious strategy that human beings employ is to try to do things really well, have high standards to stop that catastrophe from happening, that doesn't change anything, and it doesn't increase your self-confidence. It just makes you a hostage, really, to maladaptive psychological processes. So what we do is we change the rules. Here's the thing. You do the best you can. And doing the best you can is as good as you can do. And that, then, is a different rule. We bring our knowledge and the resources. We do the best we can. And then we allow what happens to happen, because we can't control what else goes on in external reality. We can only do the best that we can do in the circumstances, given where we are, given what's going on, given the resources and tools that we have to do whatever it is we're trying to do. Okay? So the new rule is to change the rules and to do the best you can, instead of trying to do things perfectly, instead of trying to excel and exceed beyond what's really humanly capable. Which brings us to rule 6, which is embrace uncertainty. The thing about perfectionism and having very high standards is that it comes along with a bit of baggage, and that baggage is an intolerance of uncertainty. Now, here's the thing. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Neither do you. Now, I have a good guess and I'll probably be correct, but actually there's an element of uncertainty in the world, in life, that we can't control. Stop trying to control it. Embrace uncertainty. Recognize that you do the best you can, but you don't have any control of the uncertainty of how it's perceived or what's going on or what people think about it. We can only do what we can do, and the rest is uncertain. Now, I've spoken to many people who are anxious about presentations and whatnot. Yeah, okay, but we can't ever control the external reality of what other people think and feel. We can only control what our internal reality gives us and what we do. We can do the best that we can do, and that's as much control as we can ever have. So don't fall into the trap of thinking that you have to control everything. Instead, embrace the uncertainty and recognize that actually doing the best you can do gives you as much control as you can possibly have. Rule 7 is that you can be as confident, as self-confident as you're prepared to be. Now, we've said that the emotional brain catastrophizes, and sometimes we try to do things perfectly or have high standards, and that instead we have to embrace uncertainty and do the best we can. So here's the truth of it. In an uncertain world, no matter what your cultural, your historical, your social, your relational, your environmental, external reality constraints are, no matter where you are, what you do, you are still the architect of your experience. Now, if you architect your experience from an internal reality of low self-confidence, then that will be the experience that you have. If you architect your experience from an internal reality of good self-confidence, good recognition of your skills, your resources, the tools, the things that you have that make you unique and you, your values and your ambitions, if you architect your experience with those, then that will be the experience that you have. And so you are the architect of your ongoing experience. And what we want to do with these rules is we want to give you the tools and resources, using the knowledge within these rules, for you to be able to architect that how you want it to go. Because if it doesn't go how you want it to go, you are still the architect of your experience. I hope you found this interesting. My name is Dr. David Purvis. My colleague Emma and I are both coaching psychologists chartered by the British Psychological Society, and we worked with many hundreds of people around these rules, helping people to build self-confidence, to arrive, to find and reach their goals, and to actually have a great time doing it. If you'd like to know more about these rules, how you can manage them, and how you can turn them to your advantage so that you become more self-confident, which makes life an awful lot easier, please feel free to get in touch with us. You can DM us, email us, get in touch any way you'd like. We'll be happy to have a conversation about how we can help you to become more self-confident.